Ah yes, the Polar Express. Though it's not exactly the most popular Christmas movie in the world, to me, it's a movie that encompasses the spirit of Christmas and the joys of believing in the unknown. However, as you may know, this is of course a fictional story. Currently, there is no train that takes you directly to and from the North Pole. But what if there was? What if the Polar Express was real? Would there be an end to world hunger and suffering? Would kids forever maintain their innocence? No, instead, it would probably end up something like this. If you thought I was joking when I said that the real Polar Express would literally explode, you have something new coming your way. Oh, it might sound a little crazy, but real life really be weird sometimes, let me tell you. Now you're probably wondering, where in the movie would the Polar Express even blow up? Here in the town? No. What about on the ice? Nope, not that one either. In the North Pole? No, but that would be pretty funny if it did. The Polar Express would actually blow up here at Glacier Gulch. More specifically, on the second incline of Glacier Gulch. With that being said, why in the world would the real Polar Express even blow up? To answer this, we have to first understand how a steam locomotive works. Here's a diagram that shows you the inner workings of a steam locomotive. Water is first pumped from the tender into the boiler of the engine, represented by the transparent blue color in the picture. The fire is then lit in the firebox, which creates heat. The heat then moves through these tubes, causing the water to boil, which then creates pressurized steam in this little cavity right here. Finally, when enough steam pressure has built up in this area, the engineer can open up the throttle, which lets the steam pass through the top of the boiler into the pistons, making the engine move forward. Okay, so that's interesting, Chris. Okay, but what does this have to do with the Polar Express exploding? Ah, great question. This is the part, believe it or not, where things start to get a little more interesting. In order for a steam locomotive to move forward, you need quite a bit of steam pressure. In the real-life equivalent of the Polar Express, the Prix Marquette 1225, the steam pressure can go upwards of around 240 psi, or pounds per square inch. To give you a little extra context, a basketball is already pretty hard to compress, even when you're pushing on it with both hands. It is so hard that a basketball player actually made the news by denting in a basketball with his fingers. On average, a basketball only has about 8 psi. Not 80, just 8. That is about 30 times less pressure than what's in a steam locomotive boiler. Now in the boiler, you may notice that the water level sits just right above the firebox. This area is called the crown sheet, and it is extremely important that this part of the firebox is always covered by water. The temperatures in a lit firebox can go upwards of around 2500 degrees Fahrenheit, nearly double the amount needed to weaken steel, aka the material the firebox is made out of. The only thing keeping the steel from weakening is the water above and around the firebox. If the water is kept above the crown sheet, then everything is fine and dandy. However, if the water level goes below the crown sheet, well, things may get a little explosive. One particularly famous example of this destruction would be the DR01-1516-2 accident. The 516 was a German-made steam locomotive built between 1962 and 1965. On November 7, 1977, a miscommunication between the crew caused the water in the boiler to fall well below the crown sheet. According to officials, the water level stayed below the crown sheet for a total of about 40 minutes, causing it to glow red and weaken. When the train came to a full stop in the station, the water in the boiler was pushed to the front of the locomotive through momentum, where it then bounced back onto the hot crown sheet, setting off an explosion. In this case, the red-hot crown sheet instantly vaporized the water, causing the boiler to overpressurize. The extra pressure from the vaporized water put even more strain on the already weakened crown sheet, which in turn collapsed and caused an explosion. The 5/16 explosion was so incredibly violent, it actually blasted the entire boiler off the wheel frame and threw it about 100 feet away from the engine. Now this accident is actually very similar to what would happen to our little Polar Express over there. Maybe some of you have already caught on as to why this would happen, but just in case, let's just run through it. After a long standoff with the Caribou, the Polar Express finally gets back on its way and quickly dashes off into the distance of the Freljord. Soon, the train picks up speed, and it quickly becomes clear that the engineers have lost full control of the train. The Polar Express then starts its slow climb up Glacier Gulch, which causes the water in the boiler to slide all the way to the back, completely covering the firebox. Then, as the train reaches the top of the peak, it quickly rounds the bump and rapidly descends down the hill, with the conductor and 2 kids still strapped to the front. However, in this very moment, all the water that had accumulated in the back of the boiler now quickly slides to the front of the locomotive, completely exposing the entire firebox to the fierce 2500-degree fire. Finally, after falling for nearly 5 seconds, the train hits another hill where it once again pitches up in a very steep upward position. This time, the water in the boiler flies backwards once again from the front of the locomotive to the back onto the red, hot, overheating firebox. The water instantly evaporates into steam, causing a rapid pressurization of the boiler, which then results in a massive kaboom! The explosion is so violent, it rips the boiler clean off the Polar Express and blasts everyone near the engine hundreds of feet away. The shockwave from the explosion proceeds to then derail the tender of the locomotive, which then careens down into the depths of the Arctic, pulling down all the other cars with it, smashing directly into the ground. Then, as the steam and dust disappears, we are left with a scene of absolute carnage as the screen fades to black. And there we go, a great and beautiful ending to the Polar Express. You can almost say it blew me away. Not as much as the conductor and children, though. They were massively blown away to over there, and a little over there, partially up there as well. Jokes aside though, I hope you all enjoyed this video. It took a little bit of a while to put this together since it needed a bit more research to complete. But hopefully I didn't ruin the Polar Express for you guys. This video was more of like a joke, as well as a slightly more educational look into steam engines. I still love the Polar Express. I just watched it yesterday actually, so so yeah. Also, I know there's gonna be that one dude who's like, well, actually, if the Polar Express was real, it would be a Baldwin 284 S3 class Berkshire type steam, blah, 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 blah. Okay, calm down, Mr. Know-It-All. We know, you watched the movie. But on that stupendous note, thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And have a great Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. See you later.